Hey everyone, before we get started today, I want to give a quick shout out to the people at Athletic Brewing Company. Because if it wasn't for them, I would still be raiding the kids' cooler. Hanging out with friends and smelling these delicious craft beers intrigued me. Why there wasn't good quality non-alcoholic versions. I was told by friends about these craft beers that I could have. Athletic Brewing Company produces high quality beer without all the alcohol. I finally had a beer I could enjoy with the adults. My favorite is their IPA. I love the Run Wild. I'm also a huge fan of the Golden Upside Down. So if you want to try Athletic Brewing for yourself or somebody else, go ahead and use my personal promo code, capital RWD20. Get 20% off your first order. Brew without compromise. Now to the episode.
Welcome to Movement Monday here on Heart of a Volunteer Veterans Podcast with your host, Daniel Hurd. Join Dan as he engages in conversations with individuals that are on their own movement to influence positive change and bring hope. Dan cycled his own movement, one pedal at a time, through 44 of the lower 48 states, nearly 18,000 miles, and thousands of engagements to break the stigma of suicide. Let's keep the movement going. Again, welcome and enjoy the episode.
Welcome back to another Movement Monday episode with me, Dan. What is the Global Positioning System? It's commonly known as GPS, and it's a satellite-based navigation system made up of at least 24 satellites. GPS works in any weather conditions, anywhere in the world, 24 hours a day, with no subscription fees or setup charges. The U.S. Department of Defense originally put these satellites into orbit for military use, but they were made available for civilian use in the late 1980s. This opened up a whole new industry that has become part of our everyday lives. The first portable GPS receiver developed for consumers was made by electronic navigation company Magellan. A company that also started during this time was Garmin. Today, they are one of the biggest GPS companies in the world. I reached out to them to have them talk about their movement because of the support I received from the company. I broke my watch, and within days, corporate had reached out to support my mission. The watch's main purpose was to record my miles as I traveled. I had to use my cell phone until I got back to society, which drained my batteries faster. When I got to Lander, Wyoming, Garmin upgraded my broken watch at no cost to me, which did more than just track my miles. When I was hit in Arizona, that watch detected the accident that I was in and sent a message to my mom and sister. They knew where I was before I could tell them. These safety features have been used all over the world. Garmin was excited to hear about my request and my transition from my journey to podcasting. They put me in contact with an internal charter called GPS VETS and one of Garmin's employees, today's co-host, Michael Miner. I didn't expect that their movement wouldn't be about global positioning systems. Instead, it involved veterans. Mike served in the United States Air Force and truly has a heart of a volunteer. Get locked in and listen as Mike and I talk about his time of service, his transition to Garmin, GPS VETS, and how they are making a difference for the veteran community. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hey, Dan, thanks for having me on.
Hey, I'm really glad to have you. Last week when we talked, I was thinking about it after, and man, how's everybody getting their barbecue? Are people getting their Kansas City barbecue right now during this virus, or is that still happening?
Oh, there's definitely no shortage in barbecue in Kansas City. I actually live down the street from one of the most famous barbecue spots in Kansas City, and they set up a kind of a little carport to-go station where they can deliver to-go orders so people don't have to actually enter the building. So they have some carside pickup that they've coordinated, and that parking lot is always just completely packed full. So
I can imagine.
definitely.
Out of curiosity, what's the one you live next to or close to?
I live near Kansas City Joe's. Joe's Kansas City Barbecue, I guess, is technically their name. I always just think Kansas City Joe's, but
I think when I was in Kansas City, I think it's called Gates.
Yep, Gates
Yeah,
Barbecue,
I went to
another
Gates
big one.
Barbecue. That was one that I went to while I was there. So it was really good. I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty good for Kansas City barbecue compared to like other places that have barbecue. So I was excited for it.
Yeah.
So Mike, I got as you know, this is largely a veterans podcast series and episode as a whole for Heart of Volunteer Veterans Podcast. And so when we have a veteran on the show, you're not a guest, you're a co-host. So let's talk briefly about why you joined the Air Force and did you have family in the military?
Sure. Yeah, I had a uncle and a grandfather who were both in the Marines, and they were kind of more my grandfather. I kind of heard stories growing up about a little bit of his service, and my dad kind of talked about how when he was a kid he used to wear around my grandfather's medals and things, and I think that kind of like instilled from a very young age kind of the desire to join the military, and kind of made me really look up to my grandfather. um, so that kind of helped me along, but then I graduated high school in 2009. The economy wasn't in the best of places at that time. I was looking for a job. I had just moved from my dad's house back to my mom's house. My parents are split, and I couldn't even find a restaurant job in the area, and I knew college probably wasn't the best move for me anyway. So military became even more appealing then.
Did
And
did your grandfather have a pretty impactful idea for you to join? Was he a driving force?
definitely, like I said, for me, it was more the idealization of kind of who he was, and hearing all those kind of like prideful stories from my dad. And then once I decided I was going to join, having conversations with him about, where I wanted to go. And originally I was looking at the Marine Corps, just kind of following the family path. And we had talked about what my future looked like. And this was a conversation that I had with my grandfather. And he heard that I possibly wanted to try to be a commercial airline pilot, and he suggested maybe the Navy or the Air Force might actually be a better fit if that was my goals. And so I actually ended up going Air Force, kind of listening to his advice. Of course, he would have supported me going to the Marine Corps, but he just thought that if my goals were differently aligned, that I should follow something that was more advantageous for those goals. So definitely was a big part of why I joined, and also what branch I joined was kind of based off his advice.
Well, it sounds like your grandfather was pretty impactful for your decisions, for the military. But how was your time of service? You said you graduated in 2009. Did you join right away?
I did. So before I even graduated, I had taken my ASVAB and talked to a recruiter, and kind of got primed, ready to go. Excuse me. And I just kind of basically just knew that was the best course of action. I was pretty confident in my decision to go. Once I made that decision, it was very much full steam ahead, get everything done that I need to get done, and get going. So
Yeah. And so, how long did you serve for?
I was in for 6 years, from 2009 to 2015.
Nice. And what was your job in the Air Force?
I was an aircraft electrical and environmental systems specialist. Basically, I worked on the U-2 aircraft the entire time I was in, which I don't know if many people know what that is. It's a spy plane. It's pretty cool. There's actually a movie loosely about the U-2. It's more about a a pilot that was shot down during the Cold War, named Gary Powers. That movie is Bridge of Spies. Tom Hanks plays the attorney for Gary, and it's a pretty interesting movie if you have the time to watch it.
Yeah.
Good bit of history.
Can you say this, the title of the film again, please?
Sure, it's Bridge of Spies.
Bridge of Spies. I'm going to have to check that out myself because I've never seen that one. And I love Tom Hanks movies. So,
Yeah.
um, so what, you did 6 years. What
Mhm.
made you get out or what made you transition from service to back to civilian life?
Right. So while I was in, I got married and had a couple kids, and kind of just wanted to be closer to their extended family, my parents and my brother and sister, so that my kids would actually kind of know their extended family, and they would have a stronger sense of family. And I being out in California was pretty far from Kansas City, so they didn't really have much of that opportunity. I had family come and visit, but once or twice a year is hard to get that strong sense of family. So
Understandable. And I know we talked about, one of the other motivations that you had set yourself up for is if you could find a job that paid either close or equal pay was also a pretty
yep.
good decision for you. Obviously, you found that. Um, where did you go? You went back home, you said, so you went back to Kansas. What did you
Uh-huh.
get for a job?
So initially, I was doing some industrial maintenance work at a company called Flowers Baking Company, and essentially they make Wonder Bread and a couple other different products, and I was just maintaining the equipment there. It was a pretty stressful job. It I you know Coming from the flight line to that, it didn't seem that big of a difference sometimes, but the business had just reopened that location in Kansas City, so the equipment hadn't run for several years prior to that because Hostess used to be the company that made Wonder Bread,
Hmm.
and when they went down, they kind of went under through bankruptcy and different things during. I think it was actually the 2008-2009 crash, and they had sold the recipe, so they reopened this previously a Hostess factory that already had all the equipment in it and everything when they bought that recipe. And um, so we had a lot of things that would just constantly break down. We had a lot of training because everybody was new since it was just reopened. So it was a good job that paid well for getting out, but it ended up being a very transitional job for me.
Hey, and sometimes, especially when we first get out, we need that transition job just to kind of get our feet wet into um, the back to normal or back to civilian life is what we call it, but back to normal
Right.
life, everyday life that everybody else has. And, Mike, something I want to definitely shout out is we definitely want to get you on a saga episode. And if anybody else from the company that you're with now that is a veteran that is also interested in maybe coming on doing a veteran chat or a saga episode, we definitely want to throw that invite out there. But how did you get to where you are now, and how did you get involved with Garmin?
Okay, so aviation, I kind of mentioned, has always been a desire of mine. I've always been fascinated by airplanes, wanting to fly them, and being in the air is never, some people have that fear, and I was working that transitional job as I mentioned, and I just happened to see an email come through from Garmin, aviation focused. I didn't really know exactly what it was, but it was titled for product returns analyst. And I thought, when I went through the checklist, like this is me. It's looking for that potential military experience and aviation and flight line experience, and it was like going down a checklist. I was very excited when I saw it come through, and plus, Garmin being a local, uh, I mean, it's an international business, but it's headquartered in my local area. So I was very excited because Kansas City is not exactly known for huge businesses here. We're not New York City or anything like that, but we do have some, and they're one of the best in the city. So I threw my hat in the ring. I filled out the application, updated and sent over my resume and cover letter, and fortunately, I got an interview, and one thing led to another, and I got the position. So
And that's amazing. Something one of the reasons why I wanted to bring Garmin on, and I'm thankful that they connected me and you as well, is because I love Garmin. The company gave me a new watch after I bought one, and I crashed my bicycle on my journey and broke the watch, and that's how I recorded all my miles and everything. So
mhm.
it was really definitely something that was very impactful for me for the fact that they were just helping out this random guy that's on a journey for suicide awareness. And, it was really impactful for me. But You know, something I want to go back to actually before we get to this next question is you brought up that you were looking at a job for aviation, but you said that your job was product return analyst. How does that
Sure.
connect to aviation? Can you explain that for everybody listening?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So Garmin at its core, although most people probably know it from like the personal navigation devices that they had in their car, we are a GPS company through aviation first. That was kind of the first products that we offered were all through aviation. And so my tie-in with having that experience on the flight line and understanding what different systems are and just being close to that kind of field, I mean, gave me a unique advantage in being an analyst for those products. So I'm on the aviation quality team, and I go in, I spend time reading through repair records and trying to analyze and look for trends and different faults. And when we have certain returns that come in, and I can kind of interpret, why we might have certain outcomes with those products when we put them through test, and maybe we do or don't find anything, but an example could be um, instead of pulling the motor on an aircraft, because that's way more work and way more time intensive, you might try, even though it doesn't seem as likely, you might try to replace a particular component ahead of doing that, just on the off chance through your troubleshooting that you might actually save yourself a lot of time and work. But that, you know, not everything is the same as military versus civilian life. Civilian air aviation, somebody's paying for that. Of course, you don't want to waste military dollars either, but your time's kind of already scheduled and paid for. So they will definitely allow you to swap that box out for, 10, 15 minutes worth of work versus 10 or 15 hours worth of work.
Of course.
Um,
Now,
so those are just kind of some of the unique advantages, just being on the flight line is provided in this line of work now.
yeah, it gives you the experience to be able to protect other people from any issues or to help improve the product. It sounds like so that's really an important
Yep.
job, and trends happen, so we got to follow the trends. We got to keep an eye on those. So people
Mhm.
like you are the ones that make things better. So I'm thankful for that. But you brought up that Garmin started in aviation, something that I didn't know before we started this whole process. I knew they were part of GPS, but I didn't know it was just primarily for aviation originally. So, with that being said, would you be interested in giving the listeners a little brief history of the company?
Sure. So the company was created back in the late 80s, and originally it wasn't even called Garmin. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was ProNav, but they were actually sued for basically name infringement or something along those lines. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know all the perfect legal terms, but they um, they ended up, just in lieu of a lengthy court battle, just starting a company. That's not something you want to do. So they changed their name and they decided to go with Garmin, which is actually a play on the two founders, Gary Burrell and Min Cow. So you have Gary, that's the Gar, and then Min for men. So you got Garmin. Um, and then
Pretty clever
it
way.
it is it's keeps a nice personal touch, on the business,
It does.
which I like a lot. So
It,
and then, kind of from there, they've had different products, different successes. I remember one story that I was told. One year, there's Oshkosh, which is this huge air show in the United States. Everybody goes to. It's a big deal for aviation. People unveil. It's kind of the place to kind of release your new products, and first showcase them and get everybody excited in the aviation industry about them. And uh, we caught wind. When I say we, I mean Garmin. I wasn't part of the company back then, but um, Garmin caught wind that a competitor of ours was going to be releasing a similar product to something that we had been developing, and we weren't ready at all to release this at Oshkosh. So basically, the engineering team, of course, it was much smaller back then, but they said, "Look, we've got to get this ready. We can't let them beat us to market with this. So they basically worked round the clock. They ended up getting this thing good to go, everything squared away. They show up to Oshkosh, they unveil it, ended up being a better product, was awesome. Um, Everybody loved it. Huge success story, and ended up causing, not that we wish bad business on anybody, but ended up causing that competitor to exit the market shortly thereafter, because our product just was that good, that everybody just wanted our product. And so it wasn't a great seller. I guess they decided it wasn't worth the investment anymore, and they focused on more of their specialty.
Hey, and
Um,
just imagine if it went the other way around, if they beat
oh
it
yeah,
out. But that just shows, um, the dedication that the employees of Garmin have that are willing to work around the clock to get that product out of there. Which
absolutely.
leads into my next question. Actually, is how is it how is it working for this GPS giant?
It's definitely something. You know, I really enjoy it. Getting out, I didn't know where I was going to end up or anything, and I can't express how happy I've been with the path that's led me here, because it's it's the closest thing that I've seen that reminds me of the military, where you go into work and your coworkers they really do care about your success. They're willing to help out. It's a team collaborative effort. Everybody has their common goal they're working towards. Everybody's kind of treated as if they're an adult. You're expected to get your work done, and as long as you're getting your work done, you're not micromanaged through every little step. Everything just kind of works. It feels very seamless to me. Everybody has respect for each other, so when you reach out to somebody in a different department, it's that collaborative effort is very good. And if they're not the right person, they're more than happy to help you find the right person. Garmin has really instilled this culture, which I think is probably the most impressive and probably the best part about the business in general. We talk about all these awesome products that Garmin makes, but those are made because everybody who's there enjoys the culture. They are happy to be there. They then put forth the better work, and they're happy to get it done, and they're willing to work the extra hours when needed. And that's not always the case. My last, my, as I called it, my transitional job, we ended up working a lot of hours there, but not because we wanted to. Like I said, it was kind of a stressful work environment. As far as everything was just, we constantly had to keep up with preventative maintenance, but also we seemed like we always were dealing with breakdowns because this equipment hadn't run in several years. So everybody was just exhausted all the time and just tired, and they almost like they didn't want to be there anymore because it was just constantly getting beat down. Um, and then transition to Garmin, and it's almost the opposite. Everybody wants to be there because they aren't getting beat down, and we're working probably more hours than I did at the previous job, because you want to. And they give different opportunities like the GPS VETS, and have other employee resource groups that are available to other groups. And um, it's allowed me to really find a really happy workplace, which is very fortunate because I found it in my 20s. Most people search for that their entire lives.
Yeah, and
Uh,
sometimes they never find it.
exactly. So
But for everybody listening, if you haven't found that perfect job or career that you're looking for, never give up. If you give up, then you're never going to find it. So, word of advice from me.
yep.
Mike, something that you brought up at the end of that was GPS VETS.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about that, but let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about what GPS VETS is.
Hey guys, Alex Casedo here, aka Bum on Two Wheels, and an ambassador for the One Pedal at a Time movement. I'm super excited to have joined the group and to share their message while I'm on my own journey. I recently completed the Living Work Start training course, which gives you techniques on how to identify somebody struggling with thoughts of suicide, how to talk to them about it, and also provides resources to help them. It's a super great course that's easy to go through, interactive, not boring, and did I mention educational, which is the number one priority of the OPAT movement. So, if you're interested in joining the movement, get started at start.opatmovement.com. I think you'll find it very informative and worth your time. Now, to the episode.
And we're back, Mike. Something that you brought up right before the break was you said something about GPS VETS. Something that it caught my attention because it's got VETS in it. So what is GPS VETS?
Right. So GPS VETS stands for Garmin Prior Service Veterans. It's a employee resource group, which is kind of like a club of kind of special interest groups. So we have multiple at Garmin. We have, one that's it's called Black Enterprise, and it's more for like minorities, or we have some STEM outreach groups. We have a women's business forum that's basically focused towards women in business, and it kind of gives groups a place to go, and with like-minded individuals or people that are in similar situations as you, like being a veteran. And so we're internal to Garmin. We have a charter. We've been operating for um, let's see, almost 11, or I guess 11 years now. We started back in 2009, end of 2009. We had, I think, started with the 3 founding members and a handful of veterans. Essentially, they just wanted to kind of take a picture together, and it's kind of been evolving from there. And now
how many people do you guys have?
Now we have about 350 veterans worldwide. So we do have some international locations, and we actually have, I think, just one veteran that's overseas. But that's pretty cool to get to say we're international. And we have about 15 to 20 civilian volunteers that come out, and they've asked to be part of the group and be on our email distribution for that whenever we have opportunities.
That's pretty amazing stuff. The fact that it's grown from 3 members to over 350 in 11, 12 years is pretty amazing, especially with its the only people in this charter are people that are working in Garmin. So it's pretty amazing that Garmin's hiring as many veterans as they have and do. How did you get involved with GPS VETS?
Sure. So when I first started, I was in the quality organization, and we have a close relationship we have an on-site reliability lab, which not a lot of companies do. And the prior president he works in the reliability lab. And so I just kind of met him naturally, and he informed me about the GPS VETS and made sure I got signed up. And we actually supply veteran badge holders so that if you want to, you can have for your ID badge for Garmin. It's just a little sleeve that says veteran and has a U.S. flag on it. And then we have a little kind of retractable reel that has the GPS VETS logo on it as well, that we give to all veterans if they want it. They don't have to take it, obviously, but it's there. And so he gave me that, and he just kind of said, hey, we have this group, and we kind of get together on Veterans Day. If you want to be on our distribution list, I can add you to it. And so I said, sure. And then about a year later, I was contacted again, and we'd stayed in touch between then, talked about different things in the military and everything. And he asked if I wanted to join the board because they were looking to do some expansion and they needed some help. And some things were changing inside of Garmin as far as how employee resource groups works. And we were actually the first ones at Garmin. So we were kind of getting more involved, and they needed help for being able to handle all that extra workload and that time to plan events and things. So I was happy to do it. Definitely was excited to get involved and do something new. And it's veteran focused, obviously. So I was definitely even more excited to keep the veteran side of my life more in the forefront.
Yeah.
So, and then, kind of from there is just tried to be involved with the group as much as possible. I took the opposite of the advice that they give you in basic training, and I basically volunteered for everything. Anything that I could do, I tried to do. So about a year later, that led to me being nominated and voted in as the president.
That's amazing stuff to go and join the board, and then a year later to become the president of the charter is pretty impactful. That means you're doing amazing things. That means.
Yeah, I was happy to do it. I didn't go in with that intention necessarily. I just went in with trying to do whatever I could for the group, and that led me there. And some advice actually, when I went through the interview process, I had the opportunity to talk to our VP of operations. He did a kind of more of a personal interview. Wanted to make sure that I mentioned Garmin culture um, being super important, and he wanted to make sure personality wise, back when he had the time to actually interview everybody who was being hired into operations, if their personality would kind of fit within Garmin and who they were as a person. And so, since I've never really had the opportunity to talk to an executive member of a multi-billion-dollar business, I asked him how he got there. Said, I one day hopefully will, I'm an ambitious person. I like to work, and I believe that I could, fulfill a similar role one day. And so, what advice do you have to give to me if I wanted to take your job one day? And he kind of laughed at me, and he said, there's no secret sauce. And he said the only thing that he does is he just pursues the things he's passionate about. And he's really passionate about a lot of the products that Garmin offers. Some of them less known probably, or like hunting products. And I believe he was actually responsible. Garmin actually has a bow sight that we make, and I'm pretty sure he was kind of the driving force behind creating that bow sight. But that advice was kind of what got me there, was pursue what you're passionate about. And I being passionate about veteran service and veteran service members and some of the different things that have happened over my time since becoming a veteran, with the people I know and how things, and some of them that I didn't necessarily serve with, but I was close to, that are also veterans, is made me really value the importance of, a lot of what the GPS vets do, which is, just providing to homeless veterans the best we can through volunteer efforts at other organizations that's their specific mission. We helped to build some tiny homes for Veterans Community Project in Kansas City. We've worked with other organizations that honor fallen veterans. One called the Spencer C. Duncan Foundation. There was a Chinook that was shot down. I want to say 2011, if I'm not mistaken, and there were 31 service members that were killed from various branches in that, and Spencer C. Duncan was one of them, and his parents started this foundation in his name, and they give out scholarships and things. And he was a Kansas City native, local to the area. We were asked a couple years ago to hold at their 5K. 5K is 3.1 miles, so they happen to have, every 10th of a mile works out for 31 of the people who were killed in action. We were asked to hold signs in memory of each of those 31 people, which I found to be, really a tremendous honor, in my opinion. It's so those types of things, I followed that passion, and it just led me to being elected the president, I guess.
Well,
And here we are.
Yeah, and you know what? That's it's really impactful for the fact that, one, everybody that's involved with this for the most part are veterans. Something that we, even the name of the podcast, Heart of Volunteer Veterans Podcast, Heart of Volunteer, really. We all signed up to join the service as a volunteer, especially since I think Vietnam, everything's kind of been volunteering instead of being voluntold. So.
Right.
I feel like it shows how important our veterans and our military are, because they're the true volunteers. They're the true heart of the things going on in the world, and the fact that you continue to do that even after service is pretty impactful. And the fact that you guys do so much for the outside community, but that's not all you guys do. I remember you telling me a story last week that you guys you help veterans regardless if they're out of the company or within the company. And I would love if you share that story of the internal help that you guys were able to give.
Sure. So I've got that story, and I have one more too that I can mention, that another internal veteran story. But actually, this happened whenever I very first started working at Garmin, and she actually is on my team. Um, I my desk was right next to her when I first started for quite a while, and her apartment, at no fault of her own, caught on fire. She lost pretty much everything in the fire. And for anybody who's ever been through fire, knows that it's very stressful. Like, you're uprooted immediately from your home. You have to go live somewhere else. You don't have anything. The way insurance works and everything, they don't just cut you a huge check and say, here, go buy out, whatever. It's a process to kind of buy a little bit, submit receipts, buy a little bit, submit receipts. Or, if you're fortunate enough, maybe you do have all the money, but you got to go buy everything again and then submit this receipt and wait for reimbursement. So that can take a while. And what the GPS vets did for her was that they had a lot of people come forward, and they offered, maybe they had some extra plates that weren't used, still in a box or something, and they donated the plates to her so that she had some, or maybe they went out and bought them for, out of their own money, and donated them to her. Or maybe they gave a little bit of money towards the cause and donated money to her so that she could more rapidly buy things herself and get back on her feet as quickly as possible. And obviously, now that you've been removed from your place, you also have to go find another place, and that means another deposit if you're renting, and or down payment on a house if you're buying a house. Or it's a process no matter how you look at it. It's just, to be honest, it's kind of a nightmare.
Oh, absolutely.
um
Absolutely.
and that's one of the things that's really awesome about the GPS vets and Garmin in general, is that these people did come together to help support her in her time of need, which ultimately is, the veteran way, in my opinion. We step up, we volunteer, and we go where we're needed in the time of need, for whatever the case is. um, Many people may not see it that way, but I kind of see us stepping up, saying, yes, we'll do it, as, uh, rising to the occasion, and being where the need is.
Absolutely. And I agree with that 100%. I think that, I think it's important for, even if it's not a fire, for me, I can compare it to it comparably to like my accident that I had. I didn't lose it in a fire. It wasn't a fault of my own as well. But I lost everything. So I can 100% relate to that, and the feeling of just being lost, because everything, you just got uprooted. You have no place. And even with me, I'm very fortunate that I've had a lot of people, a community, come together and be part of my healing process, my regrowing process. And it sounds like you guys did the same thing for this employee that you guys work with, and it's really impactful to know that it's happening regardless, and people are being taken care of in their times of need. And I think it's important for people to hear that. It's, we can't help everybody all the time, but if we all come together, we can help a lot of people.
Absolutely. I mean, like you say, when people come together, it's truly amazing what can be accomplished. What seems like a little bit to you in the moment is a lot to somebody when it comes, hundredfold, through a group of, volunteers or donators, or however, people lend their help. So, and we had another, scenario I mentioned before starting that other story. And I like, this one is also really awesome, in my opinion. We had somebody who went through a medical emergency and was out of work for a long time, and just physically incapable for a little while. And um, one of the things that was requested was, hey, we're doing okay, kind of after the dust settled, and but I can't maintain the lawn anymore for the moment. Can we get some help with that? Maybe initially this group was supposed to go over and maybe just trim some bushes, mow the lawn, do some basic yard work. Well, then the night before that, it ended up storming, and a tree fell over on their fence. This group that went out there, I think around 8 volunteers or so, ended up bringing up some chainsaws, cutting up this tree, totally removing everything, and getting everything cleaned up and put back and good to go, uh, which was not what was asked of them at all. And that was to me a really big thing, because if you pay a tree removal service to come and do that, you're talking several $100s most likely, and for somebody who's going to be out of work due to a medical emergency for a long period of time, you're already talking about medical bills and
financial
uh,
struggle potentially.
yeah, and financial losses and wages and all kinds of stuff. So that was really cool. We did a similar thing to anybody who could helped. We had people who donated groceries, we had people who donated money, we had people that volunteered. If there was anything else that came up for yard work or anything extended beyond that one isolated event, you know, they would be there. And it's just amazing to me, you know, that the atmosphere is that at Garmin. Somebody falls on hard times or something happens, the people who are aware of it or made aware of it are quick to rush to help. And whether that's through GPS vets or otherwise, it's always nice to be part of a team like that.
It sounds amazing, the team that Garmin as a whole company organization has, but even you guys in GPS vets, the 350 of you guys, and the mini groups that do these things like going out and taking care of someone's yard. That's impactful. The fact that they volunteered their time, but then they took it to the next level. They took it a step further and really probably made that individual that was in recovery mode, give them that feeling of appreciation from their coworkers. So it's amazing to hear that you guys are doing stuff like that. But you guys are doing a lot for people within. You're doing a lot for people externally as well. But you guys aren't asking for donation. You guys aren't asking for support from outside activities. The volunteering opportunities are ultimately for employees. So
Right.
it sounds like a pretty good thing to have people involved. Now, obviously, you have several people that are not veterans that are in the group that are part of the GPS vets. So hopefully, maybe we'll get some other Garmin employees listening to this that are inspired by what you guys are doing at GPS vets, and maybe get involved and become volunteer, have those volunteer opportunities as well. But what does the future have planned for GPS vets, especially with
Sure.
this past year has been kind of hectic with everybody? You probably can't do as much as you've been doing, but what's the year ahead look like?
Definitely been a bit of a struggle over the last year. A lot of the events that we had planned originally had to be canceled. We had one planned with Folds of Honor that was supposed to happen around Memorial Day last year, and um, we had to postpone initially. Ended up, because we were still kind of trying to figure out what the business was going to look like post COVID, or what post COVID, when post COVID actually even was. Nobody really knew too much on what to plan for. So now we're still partnering up, with Folds of Honor. They're another veteran organization, and we're going to be having a digital event with them soon, hopefully in March. Um, so that's something that we're really excited for, and that's something that was both negative impact through COVID, and we had to cancel an event, and then also showing, how we've had to adapt. And we had a digital event for Veterans Day. We still celebrated. We had one of the few remaining Tuskegee Airmen come and speak. He was incredible. One of the best human beings I've ever met, to be honest. He was just so much fun. And, so that's kind of, we always try to do a Veterans Day thing. We're looking at potentially after that, I coincidentally just met somebody whose grandfather was a World War II veteran as well, was there on D-Day. So talked to her about possibly having her grandfather speak at another digital event. So a lot of these things are going digital, but we're still continuing to look for those individuals who can come to Garmin or speak to Garmin at least digitally. Or, we're trying to find new creative ways to partner with or different, veteran communities or different nonprofits around the country. There's just we're still trying to do as much as we can. It's definitely become a challenge, but the future for us is still to very much grow, look for those new partnerships, continue to seek out um, groups that we feel that we can impact with our time, and we can help foster good relationship with. We also seek to educate our civilian counterparts. We recognize that there is and some of it's probably necessary, but and at least in my experience, when I've met people who are on the civilian side of things and never served, there's a pretty big disconnect in what they think we do and what we actually do. And, even like just the transition, they don't understand that moving from military service to civilian life is quite a bit different. So we seek to try to educate as many as we can. We really just want to improve any veteran's life any way we can, whether that's through education or volunteer work.
Man, that's powerful stuff, Mike. I'm really excited to see what you guys have going ahead for the future and continuing to inspire others within the veteran community and outside of it to get involved and to have an understanding of our military and our veterans. It sounds like Garmin has been able to build, as a whole company, not even just GPS Vets, some pretty special stuff. So, again, something that we brought up is this is for employees, and there's a lot of jobs out there. What opportunities are available currently that you know of for somebody looking to join the team at Garmin?
Sure. So right now, first of all, the best place to go to find out anything, because we have a lot of opportunities available and it's always expanding and growing. And seems like we constantly are opening new offices or acquiring new offices through acquisitions and different things all over the country. So careers.garmin.com, best place to go. There you can sign up for alerts and notifications and things as well. But it's going to be your go-to place for finding a position at Garmin. And I think that right now, we're always looking for engineers, software engineers, electrical, mechanical, just about everything that you can think of. We are always expanding. We have some auto OEM positions, auto OEM, but automotive type positions. So if you're in the automotive industry, from like an engineer technical standpoint, look into that. We'll probably, be needing technicians and things for that may not have been hired yet. There's always opening positions as well.
Yeah.
So look there. We've got a wide range of things. You could be, college educated to, I don't have any college. Well, I've taken college courses, but I don't have a degree yet. So, you can land a position if your experience is right. And the big thing is, if you don't have an engineering degree, always keep in mind, keep your goals realistic. You're probably not going to get an engineering position if it says that a bachelor's in engineering is required. So,
Of course.
just a little bit of advice there. Sometimes people shoot for the moon, and that's good a lot of times, but when
Within
trying to fill
reason.
a position, keep your expectations realistic. But
Of course.
I definitely, I carry that chip on my shoulder a little bit. I want to hire as many veterans as we can at Garmin. So definitely, if you're a veteran and you're listening to this and you go through and you see something you're qualified for, please apply, man. I'm always excited to hear about new veterans coming to work at Garmin. So
Yeah, and so you brought up that there's always you guys are always looking for engineers and stuff. And just so anybody that's listening, I just looked on the site, and right now they're looking for about 160 experienced workers. Those are probably your engineer types and management. But they're also got 40 entry level jobs available right now. And if you're a college student that is looking for an intern, they got about 13 positions available right now for those. For states, obviously headquarters is in Kansas, so that's where most of the jobs are. But for anybody else listening, you got jobs in Arizona, North Carolina, California, and Maine. So there's plenty of jobs all over the country for Garmin. If that's something that you're interested in checking out, please go check out. You said careers.gov, I think it was.
careers.garmin.com.
Garmin.com. Sorry. So yeah, guys, there's definitely jobs out there. There's opportunities to join the team. For it's a GPS giant, but it's a GPS giant that takes care of their people and externally as well. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely go check it out. Mike, something that I'm always interested in finding out about is what's the next technology. I obviously you can't talk about certain ones that are being worked on, but what's out there right now that is newer that has come out that maybe the general public doesn't really know about yet?
Yeah, so I'm a little bit of a bias on this one. I've got two that come to mind, but one of them is one of our marine products. It's a trolling motor. I love to fish. I have a boat. This It was a situation where we wanted to initially partner with somebody that already kind of had a trolling motor, but the relationships just weren't right. We just ended up saying, forget it. We've got some of the best minds in the world working here at Garmin. Let's just make our own. So that's what we did. We made our own trolling motor. It's awesome. It'll sync up with all your Garmin products. You can plan routes. It basically serves as kind of like an autopilot. You can say, I want to run 5 foot off the coast or off the shoreline of this lake, and on your chart plotter, and it'll do that. It'll continue to run that for you. It's really impressive, syncs up with the Garmin technology, and it's fantastic. And it's kind of funny because I've always heard the best way to becoming like a multimillionaire, multi-billionaire is to find a product or something, invent something that people need before they know they need it. And that was the trolling motor for me. It was like I didn't think I needed a trolling motor or that to replace the one I already have that kind of has this autopilot feature and different things, but now I really feel like I need it. And so here I am trying to spend however much money I need to get that and make it happen.
Yeah.
So definitely Garmin's innovating the right ways. Then you've got on the aviation side, something I've also mentioned I'm excited about. One of really big product for us to release last year was the auto land feature that we have now, and basically the way that works is it's an emergency feature. So say you've got a lot of small aviation out there, small aircraft that maybe there's only 2 people in the aircraft. Maybe it's a father who's a hobbyist and he takes his son up for a flight one day, ends up having a heart attack up in the air. The young kid doesn't know how to fly, doesn't know how to land, doesn't know how to communicate to the tower. Total horrific situation. Well, because of Garmin now and what they've been able to do, there's an auto land all the young kid has to be told to do is hit a button. The aircraft will autopilot itself to the nearest, safest, most logical airport. It will communicate with the tower. It will inform the tower that it's an emergency situation. It will automatically land. Emergency response teams can be there right away. Dad, possibly, and the kid, depending on how bad of the scenario this could go, lives could be saved. It's honestly one of the most impressive things that we've done in a long time. And I think that's one of the greatest feelings about working for Garmin too. Now that I'm thinking about it, is some of these safety products that you don't necessarily think even could be safety products, but it allows, as a veteran, I do kind of look at what I do. I want it to be impactful. I served for 6 years. I want it to continue to have an impactful time of the rest of my life. I don't want to just, I don't want to be serving, fast food, let's say, and, continuing to contribute to obesity in America. That's not the life I want. I don't want to contribute to a health problem. I'd rather contribute to somebody's safety and them being able to come home safe because of a product that we helped make.
Yeah, no, and that's one thing that I will have to agree with is the safety that Garmin has in place. Again, I compare a lot of things to myself and the experiences I've had. The accident that I was in back in October when I got rear-ended by a car. These watches are pretty amazing because it's got a crash accident report thing. So it like knows when I got in an accident, and it actually told my mom and my sister where I got in an accident and where they brought me because of the GPS location. So it was pretty amazing when I'm sitting in the emergency room and they're like, "Hey, we have a Deborah Hurd on the phone for you." Hey, that's my mom. How does she know I'm here? And they're like, "Oh, we just the watch told us. It sent us a text message." So, I think that it's amazing that Garmin is doing so much for connecting people through GPS locating, but also the safety behind it. The aviation, small craft auto landing. That's something that I, for whatever reason, I figured that something that was maybe already existing, probably because of larger companies and the bigger organizations. But, you don't really think about how these small planes, which are a large majority of the accidents that occur in aviation, is you guys are making an impact and trying to change that. So thank you for what you guys are doing. Mike, we've had a great conversation. Something that we've done is we've had a great talk about Garmin and GPS VETS. So I'm thankful for what you guys are doing for the veteran community and your sacrifice personally for the country, and all the people that are in GPS VETS that have taken the time to be part of something greater. But I would like to give this chance. Something that I do is when we close out the episode, I give it directly to you as the co-host. To give your opportunity to talk to the listeners directly. So this is your opportunity to tell the listeners something impactful.
Sure. So first of all, I just want to go back. I'd really love to see more veterans or just more good people in general at Garmin. We already have great people. I'd like to keep more coming in. So please, check out Garmin. Try to get a job there if you're interested. But also, from the GPS vet standpoint, I talked about how, pursuing my passions and different things, and how I really care about the veteran community and some of the different things that I've seen over my time, which we can get into in the veteran saga episode if we have the opportunity to get that done. But I just want to say, as a veteran, outside of anything else, do what you can for anybody, veteran or not, but really look out for our fellow veterans. Do what you can. There's a homeless veteran problem is unreal. Substance abuse, we've got mental health issues. It's people, I feel like, don't fully grasp what it's like to come back from, especially what we've seen in the last 20 years. Since 9/11, people I know stories from people who have gone through some truly horrific things that people aren't meant to be able to process that. So please, if anything happens from this podcast, do what you can to help somebody out. If it's brother, sister, father, son, cousin, doesn't matter, friend,
Neighbor.
stranger on the street, neighbor, if they're a veteran and they seem a little bit down, talk to them. You don't have to be overbearing. Just hey, what's up, how's it going, be a friend. Just be there, be somebody, do something. It's really important. People gave a lot, so just try to give a little back.
Mike, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for the invite. I was really happy to be here.
Over the past 20 plus years, GPS technology has led to the spread of commercial applications across industries and sectors, including agriculture, construction, transportation, aerospace, marine, and especially with the creation of portable devices that impact our everyday life. In addition to creating new efficiencies and reducing operating costs, the adoption of GPS technology has improved safety, emergency response times, and environmental quality. GPS giants like Garmin are building various communities within their organizations like GPS VETS to make stronger communities that can impact the lives of many. If you are looking for a job or career change, there may be opportunities in this field for you. If this has inspired you to join a movement, take action and navigate to the importance of your cause. As Mike said, it's important to be present. Be there for your neighbors, your family, and strangers as well. Let's come together like GPS has for us all and become united. Have a great week. Heart of Volunteer 2021.